This isn't fair. Bro, like what? It's always like you always get targeted. You cannot play this character. I hate this character, bro, and I hate these people.
Dussekar is undoubtedly one of the most controversial supports in Forsaken, with multiple opinions split on where he stands in the tier list. Some people say he's underrated. Some say he's weak, and some say he's the worst support in the game.
They saw how bad Dussekar was and said, okay, we just gotta bring Elliot down to that level and maybe they'll start playing Dussekar.
I believe the main issue with Dussekar is, and why people find him so polarizing, is because he provides value in a way that's not normally felt unless you already messed up. For those who are not familiar with him, Dussekar is a support with 90 health and several abilities aimed at giving buffs to the team, or debuffing the killer. His spawn protection ability spawns a shield on whoever the cursor is hovering on, giving the survivor resistance 4, which reduces the amount of damage you take by 80%. The keyword being reduce. His plasma beam gives buffs and debuffs depending on who he hits. The killer gets slowness 2 for 3 seconds, while the survivor gets speed 1 for 4 seconds. He also has a passive, levitation. It makes him float. But does that give him? Silent footsteps. Yeah, nothing cool like ignoring map houses. Just silent footsteps. Getting shielded by Dussekar reduces the damage you take significantly, allowing a survivor to potentially survive a gashing wound or a potentially devious cool kit combo. But that's the thing, the value only comes into effect when a shielded survivor makes a mistake. If the killer misses all of their attacks or the survivor is a juking goat, the shield barely does anything. It acts more like a training wheels for the survivor. If you're already on death's door, getting shielded by Dussekar does nothing for you. You have to hope that he lands his beam and slows down the killer, otherwise it's back to the lobby with you. Speaking of the beam, his beam practically does nothing for the survivor if it hits them. It gives them speed 1. Speed 1. That's not even enough to outrun Jason or Cool Kid. It's more of a bonus when you're aiming at the killer more than anything. The slowness you give to the killer is slowness 2, which is actually quite useful. It slows down the killer by 20%, making all the killers in the game slower than the survivor's run speed. This extends the killer's chase by quite a long time, especially when you land it when they're about to start running. But that's the thing, it's only if you land it on someone. I know that applies for every survivor in the game, but it's especially disheartening on Dussekar due to how his aiming works, and since he takes such a long time to beam someone. Unlike other supports, such as Wilderman, where he can use his own turret to extend a loop, Taff, where he can use his traps to slow down the killer, or Elliot, where he has his rush hour, allowing him to run halfway across the map. Dussekar has none of this. He cannot buff himself or shield himself. He has no sustainability at all. Sure, his beam can slow down the killer, but the wind-up is so slow you can only really do this at the start of the chase. Not to mention, the killer can just sidestep it due to how thin it is. And you better believe the killer will target you if you mess up once. The amount of value you can provide to a team is astronomical. This goes for all supports, but for Dussekar it's especially bad.
If there's a place you gotta go, I'm the one you need to know, I'm the map.
Dussekar depends heavily on the map he is on. The amount of value he provides is dependent on the map he's playing on. If it's a flat map, like Planet Boss, it's practically impossible to shield or survive for longer than 2 seconds, with the amount of walls and obstacles there are. To be honest, that's more about the map, but if it's a good 2-floor map, the value he provides is massive. Take a look at this. 1x is usually a killer that gives Dussekar a bad time due to his projectiles. Because he's on the 2nd floor, he can shield people without worrying about 1x's projectile. But not only that, he now has map-wide coverage, and that's only with one Dussekar. Imagine two. Dussekar also has another killer he has to fight. The game. There's also another problem with Dussekar. His spawn protection can magically target the healthy guest instead of the elite who's about to have an out-of-body experience. The spawn protection in targeting circle is also the leash circle. I'm sorry, I can't really find a way to explain this. Makes it so that if someone who's running towards the edge of the circle, he'll instantly get unshielded. All of this makes Dussekar a miserable experience to play. If you give too much value to a team, you're getting targeted. If you don't, you're pretty much as useful as a survivalist. He really needs some help.
Baba Bowie. Baba Bowie. Baba Bowie.
First are some quality of life stuff that I would give him to make him less miserable to play. I would make it so whoever you're about to shield is given a highlight, and this highlight persists for several seconds after shielding is done. This would make it so there's no mistargeting and you actually shield the person you want. Adding on to that, make his targeting circle smaller than his leeching circle, or vice versa. His beam now has a dot that shows where the beam will go. The dot is only on Dussekar's screen and it won't show up when he's winding up. Why? His beam has the longest windup of any ability in the game. His beam is affected by whatever it is Roblox is doing. The EXP gain on Dussekar's shield doesn't really make sense, because you can just shield a random survivor for the full duration and get coins and experience, even though that might not have done any. So, we keep that EXP gained, but make it so you also gain experience for the amount of damage reduced. Obviously, the EXP gain shouldn't be the same as the amount of damage that they reduce. That would be insane. The devs can just adjust the number as they feel necessary. The spawn protection buff. Make it so that this shield gives a heal of 1 HP per second for the entire duration. Even if you are shielding someone at 1 HP, you can potentially save them from an entanglement or from burning. Dussekar can only shield people for 10 seconds maximum anyways, so this in no way will replace Builderman or Elliot's role as a healer. It will only supplement them. The plasma beam buff. If the beam hits a survivor, they get speed 1 for 4 seconds, but they also get undetectable for 8 seconds. This basically won't help them in a chase, but it makes it so that any survivor being chased is also not targeted by any minions close to them. This makes it so, if any minions are closing a loop, a survivor can just run past them without having to take their focus off of the killer. If the beam hits a killer, they are given the original slowness 2 for 3 seconds, but they are also now highlighted for 3 seconds. This will basically make Dussekar the support that can give untold amounts of information. The levitation buffs. If there are any buffs that devs should make, it's this one. We make his floating an actual part of his movement, instead of an aesthetic that he just has. Now, he has a slower falling speed than other survivors. This makes it so he can glide rather than falling straight down. The amount of distance you gain from this buff will make it so he has a further distance when he is chased off a cliff. This naturally opens up escape options that other survivors don't have. In addition, he also can't stagger from falling. This passive incentivizes him to get to high ground, where he should be, since it gives him huge coverage and safety, as the glide will also allow him to maintain a further distance from the killer, giving a form of sustainability. Overall, these buffs are intended to make playing as Dussekar actually fun and not a hassle to play as. I hope the devs listen to at least the quality of life changes I listed, because they will benefit everyone who decides to play Dussekar. Hello, so this part isn't really scripted, but thank you so much for listening to my videos. Well, this video in particular. I'm trying to make my voice sound better, because in the last one it just sucks. The idea for, well, the motivation for making this video is mostly because I saw in the buff section, sorry, in the patch notes, that they did not buff Dussekar at all. It's like, wow. Wow. Dussekar is such a miserable experience. I think a lot of people agree with that. Oof. But yeah, that's mostly my opinion on playing Dussekar. Anyways, I hope to make more videos now that I'm done. Now I'm done with like big major projects and aren't held back by anything. So hopefully I can make more videos now. Also, I now have a referral link for my Microsoft Rewards account. So you can use that link if you want to support me, but you know, due to the way that Microsoft Rewards is, or just how Microsoft is in general, I'll be honest. Yeah, it's not gonna work. Alright, thank you. Alright, thank you for watching. See you next time.